Okay, so just moving side to side. And again, just full and empty. So we don't want to be with just one aspect. So we'd normally be with the fullness. We'd feel the leg filling, and then we would feel the leg filling. So what we want to do is feel the leg filling, but also feel the other leg emptying. So I still have a presence here, but it's a presence of emptiness. I'm still aware of my total body. And then the emptiness can fill with energy. Otherwise, the empty side just becomes dead. So I fill here, I empty here. This fills, this empties. And as you empty, just try and release the hip. And then you get this feeling that it's the release of the leg that actually starts you coming back. So fullness is always like contained. There's a container that contains fullness, whereas emptiness is sort of not contained, it's dispersive. So the full side should actually feel smaller in a way. So here this becomes a contained fullness, and this is just expanding out to the side. So there's an enormous change happening each time you move. And we want to feel that change in the mind. So I don't just have a still mind. Everything is changing, my body and my mind. So I let go here, and that claws me back. Yeah, so if you consider when you're walking. So when you're walking, your mind is normally on the path, on the journey, on the destination. So it's like your mind is sort of coming out of the body all the time. Now, if you walk slowly, you do mindful walking, like Thich Nhat Hanh does, and like we used to do with John at the end of the warm-ups, then that's bringing you back to your body. And you're no longer with the actual journey. So here we want a sort of combination. So I'm in my body, but I'm also got a sense of the immediate next part of the movement. So I'm with the physical here and now, but also with this energetic bleed into the future. That's it, that's it. So you're very much like two people. One is here and the other is reaching out. For me, it's very much the best image is the monkey swinging through the trees. Now, obviously, it has to hold on really firmly, otherwise it will fall. But its mind is normally with the hand that's going out to reach the next branch. But it's very much two things. Because if it put too much intent into the reach, it would fall. Okay, now let's just bring the arm in as well. So as you come into the full leg, just allow this whole empty side of my body to become active, yeah? So as I sink into this leg, it's like it squeezes activity into the opposite side, and then that can clutch and draw you across. That's it, that's it. So if you think about things, you know, objects, you know, they generally just don't have movement. It's what gives things movement is life, really. So an object will just sit there still and present. So we have that stillness in the full side, but we also have the movement that manifests in the empty side, because that's where the energy is. So you draw into your stillness, and that allows your activity to manifest in the other side. That's it. And so what we want to try and feel is how this expanding side here, so the empty side sort of expands, but there comes a point where it starts to condense again. So it's like it's expanding and then it wants to sort of condense. So we just want to feel that moment of the expansion coming together again, and just allow that to be the impetus that actually brings you across. So something is expanding, but it can't expand forever. It's like the mouth opening. The mouth opens, but then it has to close because it reaches a limit. Great. Okay, now let's just swing it into riding horse. That's it. Just try and make sure that this, that you know where it is really. Yeah, so we just really need to sort of just experiment with different placements of the sacrum. Yeah. So you've got real experience of how it changes the way you are. So it's all really about how we present ourselves, how we become present. And presenting presence, it's all about giving. Yeah, so what's coming off you, what's coming out of you. Okay, and now let's just try breathing with it. So breathing in as you expand, and then breathing out as you contract. So really feeling the body as a receptacle, as a vessel of air. So here I'm expanding as the air is coming in. Then here I'm contracting a little bit to squeeze the air out. So really feeling the breathing. Your breathing machine. Just start pulling the belly in a little bit as you bring the hands in. So here, contracting the belly to squeeze out as much air as possible. And then you just let that go and it starts the air coming in. And then the feeling is it's the hands drifting out that sucks the final bit of air in. So your whole body is becoming a diaphragm. Breathing out. In. So if you're with the breathing, then you're meditating. Doesn't matter whether you're standing, sitting, lying down, or walking. Good. And then just back into riding horse. And just making sure that the weight of your arms isn't pulling you forwards. So pushing your sacrum slightly forwards. Okay, and now let's just turn. And again, just feeling the emptying of the leg that you're turning away from. So really trying to release here so that as you turn, it doesn't pull the knee in. So it's just cross energy, really. So as you turn, the front hand pulls into the leg. So this hand is pulling into my leg, and this arm is coming out of the leg. So the hand that was in the front yields into the leg you're coming into, and the other hand sends energy out of that leg. And this is all the way through the form. So cross energy is all the way through the form. So you just want the feeling that when you come into a leg, the opposite arm is just very active. It almost feels like it stays up on its own because of the energy that's surging through it. Let's bring it back. So the body is like a machine, like an energy machine, an engine that makes energy and makes movement. So what our mind has to do, it has to be with the machine, with the engine, but it also has to be with the energy that's coming out of the engine and coming into the engine. This is what makes it difficult. And you can think of, the mind having a real part and an imaginary part, and the real part being with the workings, with the engine, and the imaginary part being with the energy. Okay, so now let's try this exercise again, but now be with instead of with the body breathing, be with the breath. So let the hands follow the air, yeah? So as I breathe in now, I bring the hands in because the air is coming in through my nose. And then I breathe out, the air is coming out of my body and expanding into the room. So breathing in and then breathing out. Breathing in and out. So this tends to be how the martial artists breathe, the reverse breathing, because they're with the energy. Breathing in and breathing out. So you're bringing something into the body, and then you're allowing something out of the body. So just imagine that your body adds like a color to the air. So as the air comes out, you can see it and it's swirling. Got all these currents and vortices, figures of 8 really. So you're taking some of the world in and you're giving some of yourself out. So it's a real exchange. That's it. And so it's like you're hungry for that air, and then you're really eager to give as much of yourself out as possible. Yeah, so real meditation would contain both of these aspects. You know, you'd be with the body, you'd be very mindful of the body with its breathing action of in and out, but you'd also be with the air. So you're feeling how the world impacts you, but more importantly, you're feeling how you impact the world. So John always used to say, you know, most of what passes for sensitivity is just selfishness. So feeling the world. We should really be very aware of our own impact. And the idea really is you just give, you give goodness, yeah? You become a good person. And now let's just bring it back. Feeling the sacrum. Feeling the spine rising from the sacrum. So just feeling that lower, the bottom vertebra that touches the sacrum. So that's round about the min-meng. And just feeling your legs coming off the sacrum from the side rather than from underneath. So my legs come up and the hip bones are part of the legs that just reach across and hold on to the sacrum. And then the lower part of the sacrum and the coccyx can dangle and wave around a bit. Okay, and now let's just, so now just what we were doing really, but now we're just bringing the foot up. Yeah, so very much just like the sumo really, but just our pathetic Tai Chi version. So again, just feeling this side filling and feeling the other side just full of potential. So it has movement, but it also has potential for movement. So it has an imaginative, strong imaginative aspect, if you like. So Deleuze, he talks about the real being composed of the actual and the virtual. Yes, so when something actualizes, it becomes a thing, but it also loses a lot of potential. When something is virtual, it could shift into anything else at any point. Yeah, so here, this has got the virtual aspect, and my supporting leg is the actual, it's become an actual support. And so just feeling that, feeling the actuality coming out of that virtual mist and feeling the virtual mist here. So anything could happen here, but it's a good thing that not anything can happen here, because otherwise I'd fall. So this is real, full and empty. Yeah. So that's what, you know, in sumo, when they're just doing their leg stamping, that's just what they're practicing. You know, they're just practicing full and empty. It's the most important thing, really, that and turning. So the important thing is that you don't straighten the actual leg, the supporting leg, in order to bring the other foot off the ground. This leg is bending all the time. So it goes down relatively straight, and then it bends to draw me across and to lift the other foot up. And just feel, you can feel that it's your Dan Chen that's moving least. So it just naturally becomes the center. It naturally becomes the place about which you revolve and are structured. And everything is shrinking into it. So your neck is contracting, your spine is shrinking, the legs are getting more bent. So this is such a good exercise. And just feel it, you know, your mind is just your body. They're the same thing, really. So my mind has to be big enough to contain my body, so that this is much part of my mind as this. And there's real change going on inside the mind. So if we think to ourselves, get distracted, start getting worried about balance, it will just contract the mind, and we'll tend to just focus on one aspect of it. And then the other aspects will diminish and suffer. And just feel the sacrum. It should almost feel like you have a handle coming out of your sacrum, and someone could just hold it and lift you up, and you'd continue doing this. You're very much organized about the sacrum, the Dantian. It's like the middle of the starfish. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. And now Okay, so now it just feels much more centered here. And we feel rounder because we've been doing this revolving. Yeah, so the turning is not just on this plane, it's also on this, and it's also on this, yeah? So we're like a ball that can turn and roll in any direction, rather than a wheel that can only turn on this plane. Okay, and now let's just try going backwards and forwards. But again, just trying to feel the whole body. Yeah, so when we do an exercise like this, we tend to be with our weight, which is coming into the front foot, and then we forget the back foot, and then we send the weight back. We're now here in the back foot, and we forget the front foot. So we're just trying to be with the fullness, but also with the emptiness. So that's why we bring in this other hand, yeah? Because the emptiness is expressing here as the fullness is filling here. So I want to be able to feel the whole body, not just my weight moving. Yeah, so when you move, there's no element of throwing your weight around. The weight is squeezing from leg to leg, and this is slowly filling up. It's like a real transformation takes place so that this empty, loose leg can become strong enough to hold your weight, and the other side gradually relaxes so that the energy can flow through it and out of it. So we just want to be very mindful of that transformational process. Yeah, so how is the leg changing as the weight moves around? Yeah, and what they recommend is just mind in Danqian, or mind with the sacrum. So just that's where you're centered. And then you have these limbs that come off that are filling and emptying. So the ego holds us together. And so if we want to let that go, we need something else that will hold us together. And that's just your peace of mind, your inner stillness. But it's a stillness that is surrounded by movement and change. It's embedded in many processes. So the ego will try and control. And your mind just lets go of that But you need that still center, otherwise you'll just disperse. So, and that's all the form is really. The form is just watching the changes. Let's try a little bit on the other side. Yeah, that stillness, it's just free of language. So as soon as words pop up, it's a sign that you become not still. It's silent. Ooh. Peace and quiet. Yeah? So you're sinking into the foot and you're coming out of the foot. Okay, and now let's just bring it, it's maybe a narrower one. Again, just with the breathing. If you're with the breath, then you're mindful. And then just with this yielding exercise. So basically pushing hands. So one hand is spiraling down your leg and the other hand is reaching behind the person. Yeah, so one hand is drawing into the center of the circle and the other hand is reaching around the circumference. So the inside and the outside, you've got both. And again, just be very aware of the legs. So I want the legs to be as relaxed as possible, which means they're making little adjustments all the time. So we'd like our softness just to be a function of the softness of our legs. So if your softness is only in the upper body, then it's quite limited. So my legs are sort of, it's one of the mysteries. It's like the leg that's becoming full relaxes into fullness. It relaxes into strength. And the leg that becomes empty relaxes into emptiness. It's always a relaxation, but they're quite different. And you'll know it's a relaxation because it will you'll tend to sink, yeah? So you'll get a little bit lower, especially with the leg that's becoming full. So if you're mindful of the changes, then you're meditating. So you mind with the breath or just with the full and empty, exchanging with each other all the time. Yeah, so in meditation, they tend to be with the breathing because they're not moving. So it's the only part of them that's moving really, that they have any sort of voluntary control over. Whereas in Tai Chi, you tend to be more with the full and empty rather than the breath because you're moving. let's just bring it back to Nordic horse. So just let's bring one hand down. So just feel the hand that's up. So the hand that's up, if you just let it go, it would fall down. Yeah. And it would fall down and it would naturally just pull you into this leg as it fell down. Yeah. Because it's heavy. Yeah. So you're drawing, you're pulling the world in, tends to take you into the same leg. Whereas when you give, you turn, you turn to get extension, and that naturally, because you've got more extension the longer the line, and the line is longer from the opposite leg. So the energy that you give out of this hand is coming from this leg, but the energy that you're receiving with this hand is being taken into this leg. Yeah. So when you're standing there like this, again, you're mindful of the two legs, but they're quite different. This leg has got a sort of sinking, drawing quality, and this leg is sort of almost expanding into the arm. Yeah. And they can look very symmetrical, but they feel quite different. Yeah. And then just let this hand down and bring this one out. And again, feel this one. It's wanting to fall into this leg, but it's coming from the opposite leg. I love doing this exercise with another person. Yeah. So basically, they're just doing exactly the same thing. It's like you're shaking hands with them. And you don't think of giving at all because they're pulling that out of you with their heavy arm. And so you can just concentrate on just the heavy going into the one leg, but be very much aware that they are actually drawing you out of yourself. This is why we need the other. It's like the other should draw out of us what they need rather than us giving what we want. Yeah. Okay. Just let it down. Just feel it pulling you into this leg. And then this arm up again. And again, feel it heavy. It's wanting to do this, but it's extending from this leg. And just be very aware of like the wing, your shoulder blade. So if you were really giving with this hand, then you'd be throwing the shoulder blade around. So the two legs, strong but quite different. And then here, one more here. It's wanting to fall here, but it's coming from the opposite leg. And then if you've got both arms up, then it's like, you can decide which version you're doing. Yeah. This can be the arm that's dropping, and then this arm, but it would be dropping into this leg. But this arm would be coming out of this leg. So it's just the one leg. So if I'm with this leg, this is receiving, this is giving. If I'm with this leg, this is receiving, this is giving. Yeah. So we want to feel that play, yeah, this sort of play between the legs. And then when we're standing in the middle, we haven't cancelled that out. It's still there. It's like it's shimmering with such gentleness and such frequency that it's pretty much invisible. So you're just letting go all the time of that need to control. Just letting the mind soften and letting the body take over, the relaxed body. Then the mind is just your awareness of the relaxed body, really. And there's no room for language. There's no room for words. Words always come later. Yeah, so when I did my PhD, it was sort of in mathematics, and the main result that got me my PhD, I dreamt it, and then I had to find a way of proving it and explaining it to others. So all the sort of the mathematics, that came after the event. Yeah. So when these things are presented, it always looks like the result came out of the theory and out of the working. But actually, it's always the other way around. The result that just comes out of a moment of insight. And the working is just something you struggle with for the sake of communicating it with others. But is all you communicate is the result. You don't communicate the spirit that brought about the result. Okay, great. So let's leave it.